The spirit that I'm trying to capture in any of my work, that hardiness, that grit, whether it's Minnesotans or otherwise, I think Minnesotans have a lot of it, so I'd like to capture that with local people and the local stories and the local landscape that we have here, but also elsewhere around the world. My name is Ryan Rumpca. I'm a photographer, filmmaker in the area. I take pictures of landscapes, outdoor lifestyle. Dog sledding is something that I gravitate towards. I shoot a lot of surfing, getting more and more into sailing. Plenty of the shipping scene up here. I'm looking at the things around me from a story lens, and the process of seeing things in a different perspective and a different light, I think, adds to my perspective on life and eventually the stories that I want to tell. I had some foundational memories up at a family cabin in Canada. I'd go up there in the summers for the weekends, and we would load up a little paddle boat with all of our fishing gear and all of the food, and we'd just go disappear in the woods for a day or two at a time. And that really set the tone for my love of the outdoors. If I had 2 weeks to spare and I had the option to go play in the mountains or go sit on the beach, I would probably choose the mountains. I would definitely choose the mountains, even if it's cold. I've been in Duluth for about 7.5 years now. When I graduated from school, I was looking for a place that had a good balance between outdoor activities, outdoor adventure, with also a good community and a big enough community that you can choose to go grab a bite to eat on like a random Wednesday, just as easily as you can go disappear in the woods on a Wednesday afternoon. And I feel like Duluth is like that perfect balance of both. This is one of my favorite spots. And it's so close. I like the quiet of it. When you get a bunch of snowfall, it dampens all the sounds. So you can be outside in like the middle of the city even, and it's just quiet and peaceful. Don't hear the traffic, and that only compounds the further you get out of town. So you go into the middle of the woods, and it's fresh snowfall. It's even quieter. Now I get to look like a true nerd. A widow controller. And go play video games in the sky. If you guys can be my visual observers, which means try to keep eyes on the drone at all times. And if a plane is coming, let me know. These are super fun, and I love flying them. They're great. But at the end of the day, I see these as tools. I can go out and fly them and have a fun time just whipping around and exploring new things, but the main thing is to enhance my cinematography and my filmmaking. Usually the saying goes, if you're not crashing, you're not flying hard enough. And there's a lot of merit to that. It definitely rings true. So I knew that if I wanted to fly them, I probably needed to know how to fix them. My background was in engineering, so I'm already a little bit of a nerd, so it went perfectly hand in hand with wanting to build these things and learn kind of how it works and all the intricacies and the problem solving behind it, as well as getting the benefit of actually going out and using this drone as a tool to enhance my filmmaking abilities. I mean, they are pretty fun. They're super fun. Yeah. I was the on-trail videographer for the Iditarod Insiders back in 2024, following the sled dog teams throughout the entire 1,000-mile journey, all the way from Anchorage, Alaska to Nome, Alaska. There was points in the race where we spent 2 days out on the trail, rarely seeing anybody, and we're 300 miles from the nearest village or town or road system. I had known about it from when I was a child, and then getting more and more into the sled dog marathons in the upper Minnesota area, it was definitely on my radar. And I was like, gosh, it would always be really cool to do that and to photograph it or film it. It's exactly what I'm drawn to with cold dog sled grit, something that's hard, something that you can get a lot of fulfillment from. And it was this whole kind of culmination of all the things that are really appealing to me. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I made my first film a couple of years ago. It's about a mother taking her daughters into the Boundary Waters and teaching them life and wilderness skills through this trip via dog sled. And they learn a lot about each other along the way, and it's kind of telling their story of how they interact with each other and how they grow as a family together. And I thought it would be an interesting way to tell the story of this unique perspective, not only from winter in the Boundary Waters, because it's very popular in the summer, but not quite as much in the winter. And there's still a ton of beauty in the winter that most people don't know about. And then also the dog sledding, it's a very unique thing to this region of Minnesota and this region of the lower 48. So kind of partnering those two together seemed like a fun story to tell in a unique way that most people might not see on a day-to-day basis. I wanted to get this tight, blocked off shot of Annie as she's kind of holding onto the sled, and our director of photography did a really good job of getting multiple angles of that. But what this came down to was our DP sitting in the sled with a full cine rig slung over his shoulder, bouncing around and getting jostled as the dog team moved its way through the trail. We're all pretty happy with how they turned out. Puts a good punctuation on the film. People that I ended up gravitating towards are those people that have that extra urge to go do things that are hard. I know that the people that are doing those actions, that do take that extra step of work, they want to be doing it and they have a lot of passion for it, and I like to gravitate to those type of people. So my next project was about a sailing expedition in Svalbard. Svalbard is an island archipelago way up in the Arctic. It's 600 miles-ish north of Norway in Tromsø. And I actually met the captain of a sailboat when I was making the first film. And he's like, hey, you should come to Svalbard and come sailing with me. And I'm like, that sounds pretty wild. But then we actually ended up making the film about him and his dad. The story tells why he thinks that we still should have a continued sense of adventure, even when there's things that are very accessible in this day and age. We spent 10 days on a 52-foot aluminum hull sailboat sailing up the western coast of Svalbard. We ended up covering about 400 miles total to some of the most further north land masses in the entire world. We were very fortunate that when we were in Svalbard, we were way in the northwestern tip, and we were tracking down what we thought were polar bear. And we ended up turning a corner, and sure enough, we had a mother and her 2 cubs, and we were able to observe this family for probably about 2.5 hours. Photography and videography has just opened so many new doors for me in my life that I would never have thought that I had the opportunity if I wouldn't have gotten into it. I remind myself every single year, I'm like, you get to do this thing and you get to experience these things that not many other people get to do. And a lot of it is just because of this catalyst that is a camera, and it opens up so many doors, especially if you put a lot of time and energy and emotion into the things that you're creating. That's what I want to continue to do. That's what I'm drawn to. That's what I'm intrigued by and fulfilled by. I want to tell more stories, especially about the local people and the local community and the local landscapes, as well as venture out and do things elsewhere. Find that cool little unique story in the odd area of the world. I'm still drawn to those things just as much as I'm drawn to them locally. So trying to find those unique perspectives on life and on the world.
Postcards is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Additional support provided by Margaret A. Cargill Philanthropies, Mark and Margaret Yakel-Julien on behalf of Shalom Hill Farms, a retreat and conference center in a prairie setting near Windham, Minnesota. On the web at shalomhillfarm.org. Alexandria, Minnesota, a year-round destination with hundreds of lakes, trails, and attractions for memorable vacations and events. More information at explorealex.com. A better future starts now. West Central Initiative empowers communities with resources, funding, and support for a thriving region. More at wcif.org.